Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 95 of our Back to Life podcast. You know, I love bringing people on this show who have dedicated their lives to helping others wake up to what's possible. And my guest today has worked with and coached prime ministers, Formula One teams, and elite athletes on what it actually takes to perform at the highest level. Today's guest is a 7-time world champion, a high-performance coach, and the author of Habits of High Performers, a book about doing less and achieving more, which honestly is something I think we all need to hear. So sit back and enjoy my conversation with James Laughlin.
Welcome to the Back to Life podcast with your host, Danny Bader. In every episode, you'll hear real stories about real transformations from real life. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our episode. You heard my intro today for our guest, James Laughlin. So, James, thanks a lot for joining us.
Oh, an absolute pleasure, Danny. It's great to be here.
Yes, and James is, I'm in Philadelphia, and it's about 3 o'clock, and over in New Zealand, it's 7, I think, right?
In the morning, bright and early, ready to rock.
Yes, good deal. Well, listen, you and I were introduced by a mutual friend of ours, Dr. Haley Perlis, and, when she said, you got to talk to this guy, and I came across your information, I just thought it was interesting. And being honest, though, always being honest, right? When I first heard you were a 7-time world champion, and then you turned into a high-performance coach, and I did a little background check, I'm like, okay, now I see the connection. So what were you a champion in, and how did you move into what you do now?
Yeah, no, thanks, Danny. So I'm world champion drummer, and everyone's like, what? There's a world championship for drummers? Yes, there is. So there's 2 different types of world championship. There's a solo event, so by yourself, and then there's like a drumline event, so the whole core of drummers competes. And if you think in your mind, bagpipes and drums, like Scottish style of drumming, that's a very specific niche style of drumming that I did. So I started at 9. I won my first world solo juvenile title at 13, won it again at 14, and then went to Vancouver, Canada to play with a band up there at the Simon Fraser University. Won a few more world championships in a drumline with them at the top level. Then came to New Zealand, and the mission was to try and help a New Zealand band become the first ever from this country to win the world championships. So it took about 8 years, but in the end, I helped them win the world championship. And after that, very interesting things unfolded. I don't know where it came from, but conversations from local professional sports teams started going, hey, the stuff you've been doing with that drum line, could you come and do that with us? I have no, so rugby's a big sport here, right? I have no idea about rugby. Don't ask me about that. But they brought me in to work on mindset. And so I was working on mindset with these athletes. They got great results. The corporate sponsors of these big teams were then going, hey, could you come into our business and work with our teams in here? And I couldn't believe the transferable skills when it came to performing at a high level with music, with sport, with business. And I mean, now I do it with politicians and people in the army and all sorts.
Yeah. How'd you get into drumming?
Getting out of trouble, actually.
Tell us about that.
I was a character at school, right? Probably a very nice way of putting it. And at 9 years of age, I ended up in Mr. Pollock's office. He was my headmaster, a beautiful gentleman, but very stern. And he said, boy, enough's enough. You've got 2 options. A week of detention or a set of drumsticks. Which one's it going to be? Oh, well, that's easy. I want to be Ringo Starr. Like, let's do it.
That was it.
I just started drumming to get into his good books and didn't realize that I had some talent, and then I needed a lot of hard work, and it all kind of unfolded from there.
That is beautiful. That's great. Yeah, I've got 6 brothers, and 2 of them are very good drummers. So I was certainly around an awful lot of drumming. Eddie used to play. My brother used to play to Phil Collins and Chester Thompson from Genesis, right? So that was his mentors. So let's get into the book. You got a book called Habits of High Performers: Essential Principles to Thrive in Life and Work. The big idea in the book is do less, achieve more. What's that all about?
I'm the anti-hustle guy. You know, like for years I was hustling, and that's how I won my world titles. That's how I built the business. But it's also how I lost my marriage. And it's also how I had a strong relationship with alcohol. And I figured, you know, some people actually do have it all in terms of they got a great career and they have great relationships and well-being. So I started going down this avenue of like, how do we do this? And started working with and researching the top performers and talking with neuroscientists. And I was like, you know what? we can do both. We can actually win here and here, on field and off field.
Hmm. So that probably, we'll get into beliefs and mindset, but that probably, what you said right there is probably the belief and mindset that all of us should really have, is that we can do both. I mean, you probably have to have that as a foundation, or you're not going to be able to. You think?
Yeah, that awareness. Oh, I'm with you on that 100%. And
Hmm.
I must say, I'm not a believer in work-life balance. I like to call
Hmm.
it counterbalance. So there might be times in our career where we do 50, 60, 70-hour weeks for a
Sure.
number of weeks. But then we've got to
Hmm.
counterbalance and go, actually,
Hmm.
I've been doing that for
Hmm.
a while now. My family haven't seen me. The gym hasn't seen me.
Hmm.
The healthy food hasn't seen me in 6 weeks. I got to counterbalance. And so I think that
Right.
high performers are really successful at that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's cool. Let's talk about balance, because a lot of times when I do the work, and I have people look at a list of their values, I leave balance on there as a value right under health and family and spirituality and finances and all. And oftentimes people circle balance. And I look at them and I say, well, I don't really think balance is a value. And they go, what do you mean? And I say, well, balance really is the byproduct of you making sure that you're focused on what matters most. So if somebody
Mm.
comes to you, James, and says, hey, man, I need some help, I am way out of balance. And we've got some listeners, certainly right now, probably nodding their heads. What's your first go to? How would you coach them to kind of get them moving in the right direction?
Yeah, so I believe that you've got to work your life based on priority. So I've got a decision-making filter for making key decisions in life, and it's based
Mm-hmm.
on values and
Mm-hmm.
priorities. So my
Mm-hmm.
key values, curiosity, abundance, and kindness. And then my priorities in order, family, fitness, finance, learning, business. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel that everyone should take the time to actually get clear on what are my values and what are my priorities in order, because then we can
Mm-hmm.
actually start living in alignment. Most of us say
Mm-hmm.
family's number one. I was one of those for sure. And
Sure. Yeah.
my credit card and my calendar didn't line up with what I was saying. I
Right.
was
Yeah.
totally in incongruence. So that's where I would start. If the listener's going, I feel out of balance, I was like, well, what are your priorities? And do your
Mm-hmm.
actions reflect your priorities?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's key. And most people, like you say, if they don't have them, they can't even bump up their activity from the past week and say, well, okay, let me look and see what I did and how did they align. So good point. Yeah, certainly for anybody, just get your values first. Go out on the web, go take a look at James's website. The 7 habits in the book. Talk to us. Give us a quick rundown on what they are.
Yeah, and if you want to stop at anyone or go back to anyone, we can have a look at it. So first things first, get
Sure.
radically clear. Most
Uh-huh.
people don't know what they want. So you got
Mm-hmm.
to get clear on what success looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, supercharge your BS. We're all full of BS, belief systems. So
Mm-hmm.
people who achieve the greatest outcomes in life rewire their beliefs again and again.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we get on to looking at multiplying our motivation. Like
Mm-hmm.
what does motivation look like? Where does it come from? Is it intrinsic, extrinsic? What drives us?
Mm-hmm.
Purpose is the next big one. Lead your life, or if you're thinking through the lens of your business, lead your business on
Mm-hmm.
purpose. People who
Mm-hmm.
have purpose get better results, live longer, are happier for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Number five, do the work. You mentioned it a second ago, Danny. High performers don't get lucky. When someone says to
Mm-hmm.
me, James, that guy, that he's so lucky, I was like, you've no clue. The
Right.
harder
Right.
he worked, the luckier he got.
Sure. Sure.
Number six, focus on your priorities. Really big one that people struggle with. And number seven, take no shortcuts. The person who takes the shortcut always pays the price.
Take no shortcuts. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's go back to you've talked about upgrading your BS. I like that, the belief system. That is where I have struggled and continue sometimes still to struggle. I often say your life is lived between your ears, which I think it is, and it's that story and it's that voice. So talk to us a little bit about maybe your personal journey with beliefs, right? As you were working and as you said, you lost your marriage and you were dependent on alcohol. And I'm still married. We've certainly had our challenges. And there were times, when alcohol was much more in control of my life. So talk to us a little
Yeah.
bit about beliefs. If somebody says, what's he talking about? What is a belief? How do I know I have them? How do I change them? Give us a little quick
Yeah,
tutorial on that.
we'll do a little test with everyone listening as well. So first of all, like mindset, if we talk about mindset, because everyone seems to talk about mindset, what is
Yep.
mindset? Well, I believe it's a
Yep.
set of beliefs that
Hmm.
shape how we make sense of the world around us.
Okay.
And so certain beliefs will encourage us to do one thing or another. So growing up in Northern Ireland, I grew up in a small Protestant town, and there was a big divide in Northern Ireland with religion. It was essentially a war and a lot of grim existence for a lot of people. So Catholics and Protestants fighting. So in this little Protestant school that I went to, I learned about Catholics. And my beliefs were formed from my little friends, not my teachers or my parents, but from my friends.
Sure.
And I believed Catholics were dangerous. Catholics were not to be trusted. Catholics were terrorists. And this was all backed up by what I was seeing on the news and in the newspapers every day, all these bombings. But your beliefs are very interesting until someone challenges them. And when someone repeats something often enough with enough emotion attached to it, we can start to believe it. So when I went home and started telling my family about these Catholic beliefs I had, my family said, well, no, here's evidence of really good Catholics, really good people. It's a small minority that are doing these bad things. Same thing happened with Santa Claus. You know, for a long time, many of us believe in Santa, right?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden that belief changes. So that's evidence that your beliefs are not fixed. Beliefs can be changed. So let's check your BS, your belief systems, and hopefully the listener can do this along with us. So
yeah, let's do it.
Danny, I want you to say the first 4 or 5 things that come to mind for you when you think of an Irishman.
Irishman Guinness.
Yeah, there
friendly.
we go. That's always the
great music, Green Hills. Yeah.
What's the best day of the year? March 17th,
St. Patty's Day.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So that's all your belief systems. That's your inner belief. You didn't have to go, what might I say? Let me Google it. Let me go on a ChatGPT. Your beliefs are there. And they're not right and they're not wrong. That's just when you think of Irishman, bang. Now, if I was to say something like money, what's your beliefs about money? What's the first 2 or 3 things that come to mind about money?
Not important, overrated. Yeah, something I've struggled with over the years, because early on I saw, and I see this, and let me just expand if I can to the audience here, because this is perfect. You know, I saw my dad work and raise 8 kids and work very hard for one company for 47 years and just not have the satisfaction. And then I watched, as I got out of college, you know, I watched other people, you know, climb that corporate ladder, so to speak, and they had all the money, yet they just didn't seem like they were happy. So I quit a bunch of jobs. I lived in Aspen, Colorado, and I was tending bar and everything else. So money was really never important to me. It was more life and satisfaction and those things, until I got married. I had 1 kid, and then I had another kid and another. So then my beliefs started to shift, and I said, wait, money's not necessarily bad, and you don't have to sell your soul to the corporate world to get it. So that's kind of how my beliefs have shifted about money.
Amazing.
You know,
money,
money's great. Yeah, go ahead.
When your beliefs shifted like that, did your money experience in the real world change with it?
Yeah, it did. It did. I certainly started to move to a different relationship with it, and made more and saved more and kind of appreciated it. Yeah, it certainly has. You know, it's still, business still has its challenges, you know, where you have, as entrepreneurs, you have great months and not great months. But yeah, it definitely, my behavior shifted around it because I started to see it differently.
Beautiful.
You know,
and you're just saying it so perfectly. That's amazing. I believe money didn't grow on trees. Like that was my, that saying, that quote, that was always on the tip of my tongue.
Right.
And I struggled to save money, struggled to invest money, struggled to earn money. And then I read 2 books that changed my life, The 1 Minute Millionaire and Think and Grow Rich.
Sure.
Arguably one of the most famous self-help books of all time. Yeah. And that started to go, actually, money does grow on trees. Money is everywhere. And not in this arrogant, entitled way, but in this way that, hey, your brain and your mind, if you can learn and water and nurture that mind, you add value. And when you add value, you get rewarded. And often that reward is remuneration. Sure. So it just shifted massively. So the listener, I want them to think about these 4 beliefs: money, success, failure, and happiness. Those are the 4 global beliefs that dictate the direction of our lives. And I want them to
say it one more time.
Take the time.
Say it one more time.
Money, success, failure, and happiness. Those 4 things, what you believe about those will impact your relationships, will impact your health. They'll impact your connection with spirituality and faith. You take the time to get clear on what you're believing about those things. And in the book, I actually take people through in detail how to rewire those beliefs. And it doesn't take a lot of effort. It takes consistency, but not a lot of effort.
And what is it to rewire those? What does it take to rewire the beliefs?
you got to be aware to start with. Like, most people are not aware
Mm-hmm.
of what they believe about success, failure, money, happiness. And
Mm-hmm.
often with happiness, it's like, it's fleeting. I believe happiness is fleeting, or I believe happiness is just, it comes and it goes, or happiness
Right.
is not for me, or happiness comes when I'm, praised by others. Get really clear on what you believe and ask yourself, is that the most empowering thing I could believe?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, write down what the most empowering thing is.
Right. Perfect.
Happiness is for me every moment of every day. And you might
Right.
look at that and go, rubbish. I don't believe that.
Sure.
That's it. It's okay. That's fine. Most new beliefs are like, what? They did, like, I
Yes.
don't believe that. It's not, that's okay. Then
Mm-hmm.
write it down every day. Say
Right.
it every morning, say it every evening.
Mm-hmm.
Neuroscience backs this up. So Dr. James Doty, author of
Mm-hmm.
Into the Magic Shop, one of the greatest books
Sure.
on the planet,
Yeah, I read it. I
he
read it.
talks about, you have read it?
Yeah, I read it. Yeah, it was great, man.
Great book. And what I love about him, he's a neurosurgeon and neuroscientist, and he talks
Right.
about how to rewire the beliefs in the brain.
Right.
Write
And
it
I
down
think
every day.
yep. And was he on Mel Robbins too? She had him on once or twice? Has
He's
he
dead
passed
now. I'm not
away?
sure when he passed away. He has, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Gray haired dude with the glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. Love that guy. What was it? That's his name again for listeners because they should check him out.
Dr. James Doty, Doty.
Doty. So
Yeah.
I talk about holding useful thoughts, right? Hut. And it's the same thing. How do you catch when you're thinking things that aren't useful because they're putting you into a depressed, emotional, sad, any kind of emotional state that's not going to move you to a good action. So it's the whole, as you're saying, right? How do you reverse those? So what would somebody say to you that really loved you? They wouldn't say that rubbish in your head, right? They would say, no, happiness is for you every day, every moment. So you say that, then how do you really make that a belief though? So that it's not, as you said, new beliefs, when we hold more useful thoughts. In the beginning, we were going, oh, that's not really me. That's like self-help, BS or whatever. How do you really anchor those so it's who you become and how you think?
Yeah. So I was working with a professional sports team a few years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
their whole theme for the year was relentless. They were going to be relentless, and
Mm-hmm.
they weren't really performing in a relentless way 2 or 3 games in. So I sit with them in a mental, like a mind gym, mental skills session, and say, "Why don't you guys come up here and volunteer?" So they come up reluctantly. Okay, let's say I am relentless. Just let me hear you say it. And they go, I am relentless. I was like, okay, I don't believe you. Could you say it again and make me believe you? They go, I am relentless. I was like, I still don't believe you. And I kept doing it to the point where the guy lost his cool with me and
Mm-hmm.
swore at me and was like, you're pissing me off. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what
Yeah.
do you need me to do? I said,
Yeah. This is
I'm
not
not
easy
me.
work, man.
Exactly. I said, I want you to look at me right now. I'm your subconscious. I'm your reticular activating system. I'm not James right now. I'm telling you what your brain and your subconscious is thinking right now. When you go, I am relentless, it doesn't believe that. It knows you're BSing. So tell me, your subconscious mind, that you're relentless and make it like unequivocal. And he gets in my face and he screams with passion, I am relentless.
Yeah.
And all his mates look at me like, whoa, like
Yeah.
they took it too far. And I high fived him. I was like, dude, awesome. Everyone,
There you
stand
go.
up. Let's do it as a team. And they all did it. And we did it every week and we built it. They found it funny. They found it engaging. It changed their nervous system. And guess
Mm-hmm.
what? 2, 3 weeks later, the game starts to pick up. They go on to win the season.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
not just because of that one thing, but the belief plants a
Mm-hmm.
seed and it gives you more
Mm-hmm.
confidence to perform. So, what I'm saying to the listener, whatever that new belief is,
Mm-hmm.
say it out loud, say it with
Mm-hmm.
passion, say it every day. Put your
Mm-hmm.
favorite track on. If you're listening to Avicii, Lady Gaga, whoever your favorite is, and blast it. I do it in the car. So, Danny,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm in the car, I say my affirmations or my incantations every morning
Mm-hmm.
because that's how I
Mm-hmm.
build better beliefs. It doesn't
Sure.
just happen passively by going, I believe money's going to come my way. You've
Right.
got to say it and follow it by action.
Right. Yeah, the action is the key, right? I remember that, after I had that accident, my friend died. We both died. I came back to life. We got electrocuted. And my beliefs had hung around probably for 15 or 20 years. It's my fault. His kids don't have a dad. I don't deserve to be happy. Let me grab another beer. Nobody understands what I'm going through. And man, I struggled with them. I was 28 when the accident, into my 40s. Still, they would continue to
Mm.
show up. And the biggest one was, I don't deserve to be happy because I was involved in an accident where we both died and I came back and I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids, right? So it should have been me, all these beliefs. So I'm just offering that to the listener to try to bring, the more we can bring, James, the more we can bring real life stories in, and like your football team there, the rugby team, and me, it's so powerful. So if anybody's listening right now, and you got laid off or something, and your voice is going, I can't believe this, I'm never going to get a job, it's a tough job market, there's not something out there, I'm going to have to wait tables for a little while, or nothing against waiters, of course, shift that. I see it a lot when people are divorced, a spouse cheats on the other one, and man, the other spouse is like, I can't believe this happened to me. How could they do that? I must not be good enough. I know just crazy things that people say. She's prettier than me, she's younger than me, and all this, as you said, all this rubbish, until they can really just sit with themselves, and get to that sense of self-love and say it really had nothing to do with me. It was his choice, it was her choice. And then let me, as you said, let me start to plant some new beliefs. That's pretty cool. I knew we'd have a great
Danny,
conversation, and this is good.
Do you journal, by the way?
I do. Yeah. Where is my journal from today? Here it is. So this is probably my I've got a drawer over here. This is probably my 15th journal that I've filled.
Awesome.
And over the years, I probably started,
doesn't.
I think when I dug back, I think I started in like 2007, 2008. I went to the Hudson Institute of Santa Barbara for my coaching certificate in 2007 or so. And that's when I started to get into it. But like anything, then I look, and there was like months when I wouldn't journal. And that's what I offer to people, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. But if anybody's thinking now, yeah, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Some days I won't. Some days I'll do a paragraph. Other days I'll do two. I got some things going on in my life right now where it's really good for me to kind of journal and get those thoughts out, right? Get them down on paper, because then, as you said, then you can look at them and go, well, I can choose to think this way, or I might want to shift it a little bit. How about you? Journaling?
100%. Well, it doesn't surprise me that you said yes to that. Just by looking at your life and what you've achieved and the way you impact others and the joy in your face, it doesn't surprise me that you do. So often when I'm on stage keynoting, people at the end for question and answer, like, hey, what's the one thing with, the prime ministers you've worked with and the big superstars? What do they all do? What's the one thing in common? Like, well, actually, I'm going to give you a piece of advice right now, and it's going to cost you about $10. Go out and buy yourself a journal. That's all you got to do. Buy a silly old blank journal and start writing in it every day. Just every day.
So then let me play devil's advocate with you. All right, James, I actually have a journal at home, and I haven't started yet. What do I write?
Yeah, brilliant.
Because that's what everybody's thinking listening to us right now. You know that.
If I could challenge the listener right now, I've got a 30-day journal challenge. Yep. And if they do it, they should get on socials and tag you and me after 30 days and say, I did it, because you're one in a million if you do it. So 3 questions I want them to answer every day. It's all they've got to do, 90 seconds a day. What went well today? Well, what went well today is I listened to Danny's show. That's what they could say. What didn't go so well today? Oh, you know what? Maybe I was a bit late for work. I got frustrated in traffic, or I lost my patience with someone, or I spoke poorly to myself.
Sure.
And what does 1% better look like tomorrow? What is just 1% tiny bit better? Those 3 questions for 30 days, I promise you, your life will start to change direction and you will feel differently. Do it for 60 days and you've got a habit for life.
Forget it. And the 3 again is what went well today.
Yeah. Right? What didn't go so well today.
Yep.
And what does 1% better look like tomorrow?
1% better look like tomorrow. Yeah, that's really cool. That's what I always tell. I got a high school talk next week with the young kids. And, comparison is so big for young people, and even for adults as well. And I say, should I compare myself to other people? And I go, yeah, absolutely. And they go, they freak out. And I say, you should compare yourself to who you were yesterday, right? You should compare yourself to who you're going to be tomorrow. That's it. Everybody else with all their videos and more followers and wonderful lighting and everything else, don't worry about them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Who were you yesterday? As you said, where did you maybe make a poor choice? Give yourself a hug. I talk about empty your sandbags, right? So many people carry around so much heavy weight of regret and poor choices and blame and guilt. And I'm like, you were never intended to carry that weight. Yeah, but I did it. Of course you did. Welcome to being human. Give yourself a hug, shake it off, and let's get back after what we're getting back after. That is good stuff.
I love that.
Of those habits, what's a favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Good question. Look, I actually think the most important one, I'll go to my favorite one's to focus on your priorities, but the most Important one is get radically clear. And if you don't know what you want, just don't start marching towards it. Don't get busy being busy. But a young fella come to me and say, James, could you be my coach? I says, I could be. So, Danny, I coach people like yourself in the corporate world, the political world, and the sport world. This was a young athlete. And I says, I'll see you next week. So we sat down, he looks at me, and these are the 3 questions I always ask everyone that I start with in terms of getting radically clear.
Right.
So he's paid up and he's ready to go. And I say, my friend, what do you want?
Yeah.
And I just pause. And he goes, I says, stop there. I'll see you next week. He said, what? I said, I'll see you next week. He says, I'm so confused. I was like, I know you are. That's why I'm asking you to go away and I'll see you next week. He says, I don't get it. I was like, all I want you to do is think of that first question, the only question I asked you. I'll see you next week. Yeah. And the reason I did that, Danny, is most people, when you ask them what do they want, like what's their financial retirement number? What does success look like? What is a great family life? What's the career? You know, when you start with or
yeah,
you have no clue. And that's it's
or
not
I don't
criticizing
know, right?
the person.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a really great awareness point to go, whew, I need to figure out where I need to set my compass. So he comes back the next week and he says, I want to be the greatest athlete in this sport of all time. I was like, great. You passed the test. Second question, why do you want that so badly? And he says, well, my grandparents were both like national representatives, international representatives in this sport. Awesome. Third and final question, then we're done with our first coaching session. And he says, dude, I've paid you a small fortune for an hour. This is like, we're minutes in here. It's like, we don't need to go the whole hour. We'll get there.
That's right.
Last question. How much are you willing to suffer to get that outcome? And he says, suffer? Are you serious? I'm paying you to coach me to get there quicker, not to suffer. And I says, okay. What I hear is that country over there, who's, you know, one of the worst at this sport, I hear that they're hiring. I suggest you immigrate and you join their team. Because if you want to be the greatest of all time in the sport and you want to do it in this country, you've got to be prepared to suffer to get your result.
Yeah. Right.
And he got it. Yeah. And he did suffer and he sacrificed. Suffer's a big word, but, you know, sacrifice. And he got in and he became one of the greatest of all time. And he still is. And to me, that's not my secret sauce, but the ability to answer 3 questions that he had. And I think that is the most important part of the book. Get radically clear on what you want and what you don't want.
Right. And the third question, of course, he wanted to take the shortcut, right? It seems like, which is one of your principles. Yeah, radically clear. Radical is a great word. My most recent book is A Radical Reverence for Your Life. Radical means very different from the usual or traditional, right? So that's it. Most people are not radically clear on what they want. You know, when you ask, well, I just want to be happy. I just want to have money in the bank and, you know, healthy and all of that, but they don't really dig into it. That's interesting. Do you struggle with any of the habits?
Yeah, great question. You know what the most difficult one is the belief systems. And I think as I get older and my life situation changes and different things happen, it challenges my existing beliefs. So I run a podcast. I've been running it for 7 or 8 years, and I get all sorts of people on it. Formula One guys, neuroscientists, global leaders. And this guy, I read his book. It's called Beyond Hope. And his name's Bariz Shah. And I'm reading this book, and I'm like, whoa. So at 18, he went to prison for kidnapping and armed robbery. He immigrated from Afghanistan to New Zealand. He was going to join a terrorist group when he was in prison. Something changed there, and he found God. And he came out, and he was really committed to worship. He then got an engineering degree, one of the hardest degrees to get. And he was in Christchurch, the city where I'm based. And we had a terrible mosque shooting a number of years ago. And 51 people got murdered. And that was his community. And that was his place of worship. And in his book, he talked about how he responded. And he responded as a leader. He responded with compassion, with empathy. He started a fund to help fund micro businesses for women in Afghanistan, and 51 women specifically, in honor of the 51 people who were killed.
Who perished,
And he's an amazing human. So I had him on the show, and we're chatting, and my experience of his religion has largely been through books I've read and movies I've
Mm-hmm.
watched, and it's been
Mm-hmm.
quite heightened and quite scary. And talking to him, I'm like, whoa, he's the most beautiful human. He's so gentle. He talks so fondly about his beliefs. So I said to
Mm-hmm.
him, I've never been in a mosque before. And it actually scares me at the thought. I drive past that mosque that the attack was at every day. I say, and I always
Mm-hmm.
feel a bit fearful driving past. He says, come on
Right.
in. I was like, what? He's like, come in. I'm
Right
like,
on.
are you serious? So 5 a.m., it's pitch black. I rock up by myself, go to the front door and rock on in. And man, I got 100 questions for him and his, brothers. And I'm like, I'm not a big believer. I believe in spirituality. But tell me about this. And why do you believe that? And what are these 5 pillars? And they were so open to answering all of my challenging questions. And I found it refreshing. So I have to
Right.
say, Danny, I find every year something that
Mm-hmm.
challenges my existing beliefs, and I have to
Mm-hmm.
change and I have to upgrade them. And even about my health and about being a dad, and those things are continually being challenged. The BS is the hardest part of the 7 habits.
Oh yeah, yeah, I think it really is. And that's so cool. So anybody listening out there, I would say listen to what James just talked about. Every year, every 6 months or so, when you feel yourself at the edge of comfort, whether it's beliefs about anything, whether it be about religion, whether it be about divorce, whether it be about, transgender and homosexuality, gay, lesbian, all of that, any of those things, man, just take the step a little bit further. Because James obviously has, I have, where, you just realize that, gosh, this belief I was holding on to is not really serving, I think, what we're all intended to do here, which is love one another, right? I forget who, I think it
Exactly.
was Rumi or one of the great poets, Sufi poets. They said, we're all just walking one another home. And I thought, man, what a
Beautiful.
powerful thought that is, right? And we can walk one another home being different and
Mm.
thinking differently. So that was
Have you
cool.
ever came
So how does
across
your spirit go
Ramdas?
ahead? No, go ahead, jump in,
Have
man.
you ever have you ever came across Ram Dass?
Oh yeah, sure. Was it him that said it?
So he No, well, he had a movie. There was a movie made about the end of his life, and it was essentially like walking each other home or going home. But I think he took it from the Sufi poets, probably Rumi.
Could have been.
Um,
Yeah.
so when you said that, I was like, I'd never heard that said before. And when I
Hmm.
seen the Ram Dass show, I was like,
Hmm.
whoa, literally,
Yeah.
that's all we're here to do. Like help each other
Yeah.
get back
I
to
I
whatever
I
wholeness.
really think it is. James, I often talk with people, and the older I get, and the experiences. I lost my dad 95 last year. Had a great life, but I lost. That's why I wrote Radical Reverence. I lost about seven. They all happen to be guys, and that doesn't matter. People that I really, really loved, best friend, college roommate, two brother-in-laws, the guy who was in the accident with me that didn't die, the two brothers, one died that day and didn't come back. And in about, I don't know, 6 years, I must have lost eight of them. And it just really challenged my beliefs. And the belief was probably that, hey, I'm only 55, I'm only 58, I got another 30 years. And that belief was radically challenged. So that's where I'm saying to people, look, rock bottom is going to show up. It's a hell of a place. It's where a dark place with struggle and everything. Then there's the functional fog. You talk about it. We're stuck. You're just going through the motions. Days, weeks, months, years. 5 years later, you look back and you go, where the hell did that go? Or we can
Mhm.
have that radical reverence where we say, damn it, man, each day is a gift and I'm going to live it that way. And people go, well, really, do you? I say, no, but I strive to every day. And if you strive to, you do more than just you live that more often than just kind of showing up and going through the motions. And when you get
I think
that
those
as the
intentions are important.
foundation, I think, for your life, that's the key. I just show up differently. When I'm in traffic or somebody cuts me off, or somebody says, "Oh no, we chose another speaker over you." You just deal with those things differently because the basic belief, as you and I talk about, is that this life is beautiful and it's not forever.
Mm.
And if you can just hold that, a lot of the bullshit just it happens and then it's in the rearview mirror. It's in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with
So
you.
where can people find you as we kind of wrap up here? I got another question, and we'll put it in the notes and
Yep.
all, but you've got a website, right?
Absolutely. So they can go to JJ Laughlin, and it's spelt Laughlin, Laughlin. So jjlaughlin.com.
Okay.
All the socials, the Instagrams, the LinkedIn's, of course. And if they want to get to know what I do more intimately, they can go grab my book, Habits of High Performers, and it's available globally. And yeah, just reach out and let me know how they're going. And I love following people's journeys and what they do and what they commit themselves to.
Absolutely. And I think they will check out. And as I got to know you a little bit before our conversation here, obviously, folks, media, social media, YouTube, there's some just wonderful videos, conversations, podcasts where you can listen to James a little bit more, because a lot of you are probably going, well, you know, I'm going to get the book, I'm going to read it, but I also like to listen when I'm working out or walking or reading or something of that nature. You know, James, you and I have had some different memories, some pivotal times in life, right? Those life-changing moments, so to speak, and they don't come announced; they just happen. You and I both know that. When somebody reads your book and they close it, how do you want them to feel?
I'd like them to feel liberated and free. This world is all about hustle and side hustles and work harder and win, and I'm totally against that. Like, high performance and the highest performers I've ever worked with, it's not hustle that got them their results. It's habits, simple habits, simple things done consistently over time that have led to sublime results. When they get to the end of the book, I want them to go, oh my goodness, is it that easy? And I will say, yes, it is. Once you free yourself of all the trappings, all the noise, all the comparison, stick to these 7 simple habits. Be patient, and the results will definitely come.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, you move from fear and frustration to that liberation, to freedom, where you go, okay, this is cool. I get it. Things are all going to move in the right direction. I'm going to have bad days, and it's still going to be moving in the right direction. Well, everybody, I'm sure if you were taking notes, which I hope that you were, I trust that you were, you've got a lot of them. And even if you weren't, you probably have some mental notes up there. I certainly know that I do. And James, I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you do. I acknowledge your journey and where you are. And I thank you for the inspiration and the support you're giving for an awful lot of people. So thanks so much, brother.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me, my man. We'll see you soon.
All right. It's a pleasure. All right, everybody. Until next time, thanks for listening. Go ahead and comment on this, share, go out and get James's book. And just remember, there's a hell of a difference between just living and being fully alive. Until next time.
Thank you for watching. Please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing the Back to Life podcast with your friends. And don't forget to join us in the next episode.